Hello, this is Fabio Correa. I'm a student at the Northwest University in Kirkland, Washington, and this is my final project for my master's program. And the idea is to um, create a tool based on large language models, ChatGPT in particular, that is trained on specific material so it doesn't go and hallucinate, generating wrong answers um, or plagiarizing other people's work. What it does is look at documentation that was provided and answer questions based on that. So the documentation that I provided to this custom GPT, as it's called, is the entire SPSS reference. So all the syntax is provided in this documentation, and all the documentation for the GSS survey, which is a survey that is run every 2 years by the University of Chicago, and is very popular in when we are teaching use of SPSS, data analysis, etc., in social sciences, psychology courses, etc. So I thought of creating a quick demo of how to use the tool in SPSS. Okay, so let's go. Let's start with loading the data into SPSS. As you can see here, the GSS um, data is loaded. And just to illustrate the complexity of the survey, these are the variables available in the survey. And we have over 6,000 variables in this data set. The code book, which is also fed into the GPT model, has over 3,500 pages. So just to understand the data is a chore. So why not offload these manual tasks to artificial intelligence so we can focus on the higher level, higher cognitive tasks involved in that research. So let's start. You can access the SPSS Copilot for Social Sciences in the link provided in the description below. So instead of running this real time, to save some time, I'm going to use um, a chat that I already had with the Copilot and simply run the code in SPSS to make sure that it works correctly. So my project here is to understand mental health data from GSS. So the first question is, check the code book. What are the variables in GSS related to mental health? So it creates this answer here, listing all the variables in GSS that are related to mental health. And I want to create scales based on the groupings that it created automatically. Uh, when I started this, I was kind of surprised because it already categorized the questions in groups that look like good scales. So I simply asked, let's create scales that represent items in the survey related to each of the 6 categories. So it created the 6 indexes with the items listed below, right? So here it essentially created the plan. What is the plan for the analysis? Let's create these 6 scales. And also it gave me some ideas of how to proceed, right? Let's run a reality check, right? To make sure that this is a good option for scales, right? So let's do the reliability check as well. So then I asked, okay, let's create the SPSS code to create each one of these scales. So I created all the code for the different scales. So I'm going to copy and paste these into SPSS. So because it created the code fragmented and trying to comment, it's a little boring to copy and paste, but it's a lot easier than having to type all of these from scratch, right? So the last one was violence. Okay. And then check the missing values. Okay, and execute. So let's run the syntax. It's executing. Right. Hopefully we get no errors. And there we go. Everything run. Looks like we got no errors. So let's create a new paragraph and do the reliability check. So now here it created the reliability check for each one of the variables. So let's copy and paste here. Run. So now it created all the output. Right? So now how do I interpret this output? Right? It gave me already some clues in the answering the question. So I should consider these criteria when judging the Chromebacks alpha for each one of the scales and pick the ones that are valid. So what I did was I saved the output by selecting the paragraph here and exporting the data to an output file and load it into the GPT model, saying from the output, select the scales that are reliable for further analysis. So I could validate this by interpreting the output myself, okay? But let's see what a GPT can do for us. So it looked up all the reliability tests and decided that he wants to get anything that is greater than zero point 0.7. So these are the four that met the criteria, and these two did not. Okay, so great. So I selected four of the scales. Now I want to do some quick analysis on it. I say, let's see how race, sex, and education level impact each of these four reliable scales, right? So with that question, again, I didn't have to think about what the variable names in SPSS. I asked for the concepts. So it looked up in the code book and decided that, well, the variables to use is race, sex, and educ, right? And explained how each one of these variables work. And I can check and validate and see if it picked up the right questions, and it did, and generated the code for um, for SPSS. So I copied and I'm going to paste here. Now, I know that this is going to be super verbose. I don't want to get too much output. So I'm going to reduce the tables that it generates in the output only to the ones that really matter. Okay, and let's run the syntax. Right. So it created the output for all the ANOVA um, analysis for each one of the scales and what contributes. So here I can see that education, level education is an important factor, and the other ones are not in the first scale, and so on. But let's feed this output to the Copilot. I did the same thing. I saved it into a Word file output, and it generates this analysis for me. So for each one of the scales, what happened, and then I said, okay, it looks like it's working. Let's narrow the analysis down to the years 2008 and 2018. It was essentially running this data, this analysis over all the data in GSS. But for the final output, I want to make sure that I'm getting only the last 10 years. I did that because I wanted to make sure that the scales would work across the entire data set. So now it's going to filter for these specific years. Let's put the code here. Then in the end, um, I asked to check the code book again for what years these variables have valid responses. It provided the output. Okay, it said that all these variables are available during those years. And then I asked to ensure. So here, at this point, there was a back and forth between me and the Copilot. It generated some code. I went back and said, okay, check this code again. It cleared up and provided the final code. So anyways, what this chat session did was to prepare the data, create the scales, check the reliability of the scales, and see which one of those factors impact the outcome using ANOVA. This essentially gets me to a point that I have reliable scales, a good set of data that can get me started in a research project, right? So from here, there's a lot that could go on, and I spent a lot less time reading documentation, but focusing more on the higher cognitive task of making the decisions, analyzing the results, and steering right the project into the right direction. So hopefully, SPSS Copilot can be a tool for learning, and even for more seasoned professionals and educators to prepare the data, analyze the data, etc., um, in a in an expedited way. So thank you for watching. Again, the links to the relevant documents are in the comment. Please leave your comment, and thank you for watching again. Bye bye.